If they are not able to set a healthy boundary with emotionally immature parents, then they're trying to manage their relationship with other people the same way, with the friend, even later on with the husband, even with their kids in future. But once with the emotionally immature parents, you draw a certain boundary and you also understand it is not about me. You also understand what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me to, where to keep the relationship. You are respecting them. You're not blaming them. So there is lot of clarity inside your head. With that clarity, then you move on and grow. Second is, I feel guilty if I act like that. Wouldn't you feel guilty when you are setting such a high expectation bar and then you are having repeated meltdowns in front of them? उसका भी तो आपको challenge आ रहा है हर वक्त. So don't feel guilty. You have accepted that my parents went through very difficult times. They never got the emotional connection. It's okay. And everyone doesn't have that test. I have that test and I need to learn how to deal with that. And what I'm doing is, I don't want to be disrespectful towards my parents. I want to do the best in the relationship, but I have to safeguard myself as well. Because this is a special situation. I get overwhelmed by emotions. What do you need for that? If you get overwhelmed yourself while you're trying to manage this, go attend some workshops online or read about it. Emotional intelligence. The more you are healthy in the healthy domain, your emotions will start getting better. My parents have taken good care of me. Then be thankful to them rather than getting the guilt and then mismanaging the relationship. When my parents make me guilty, ये भी होता है, हमने तुम्हारे लिए इतना कुछ किया है और तुम अजीब हो गई हो और तुम ये नहीं करती. Don't take the guilt. जो कर सकते हैं वो करें. Maximize taking care of them, but without emotional connection. ये आपको सीखना होगा. Worried about my parents. Should we be worried about our parents? Yes or no? If they are abusive, if they are not taking good care of us, if they are emotionally absent, should we be still worried about them? Yes or no? Yes, we should be. We have to do our part right. And in this case, our part right would have to be going through lot of boundaries. And yes, making lot of du'as for them. There is no compensation for du'as. Surah Ibrahim, verse number 41. Rabbana ghfirli wa liwalidayya wa lil mu'minina yawma yaqumul hisab. With the dua we make in our salah as well. Oh Lord, forgive me, my parents and the believers on the day the account is established. I hope you are able to understand the concept. It's a difficult concept. If I had the choice, I would have covered it in at least 3 or 4 sessions so that you can have all the concepts synced in properly. So now the house is open for any questions.
I have a friend who's like that, and like every time I try to bring it up with her and we try to solve it, she basically just doesn't want to talk about it. Like basically changing the subject.
Yeah. Avoidance. That's the avoidance behavior, because there is a lot of pain associated with when you have parents like that. You don't have to talk. If you have a friend who is going through this thing, what you have to do is you can explain these concepts to her as I have. You can advise her to go to some counselor and try to learn about emotional intelligence so that she learns how to detach, how to come out of that fantasy, how to develop relatedness, how to work on that relationship through appropriate emotional intelligent moves. But one message should be clear. We need to tell everyone, look, this is your parent, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not given us right to rebel against them, to curse them, or to be judgmental about them. We have to learn to empathize. And I have told you that if you learn that empathy, you can break that generational trauma. Rather than saying, I won't get married, I won't have kids, you can say, I will get married and I will have kids and I will not repeat the same mistakes that my parents did. Not because they intentionally did it, their circumstances provoked them for that. So let me come in that leadership role myself. That's the need of the day for Ummah. That's going to give you so much pleasure. That's going to bring in so much ease in your life, because you would be moving on with a certain purpose, inshallah.
What if someone's parent has been like a cold attitude towards like usually most of their life, and as they're getting older, they start to like have a change in personality and they like need emotions, they need that love from the children. In that like period of the stage of change, what should a child's attitude be? Like,
Okay, very important question. If the parents had been cold all their life and now they're growing old and the kids are now more independent, so the parents are changing their attitude, what should the kid do? The kid should learn to heal him or herself, learn emotional intelligence and connect with the parents. We always need to give right, appropriate opportunities to people who are important in our life or whom specially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given due importance. Discarding people is very easy. Someone has messed up my life, so get lost. But if those people, they come back to us and now we are in an authoritative position to take charge, we must show the right traits. We cannot do tit for tat. We will be answerable that if a person came to you, then why didn't you behave in appropriate way? But our problem is we also are stagnant. मैं अभी भी आपसे ये बात जो कर रही हूँ, I'm talking to all of you and we're talking about emotionally immature parent. So it should not be like the limelight goes to the parent. You should also be wondering, hey, wait a minute, okay fine, if my parents were not emotionally available, what did I do about my emotions? Did I read anywhere? Did I make an effort to learn about emotion? You could be saying, yeah, I talked to my mom or dad and they are not interested in getting me help. But you have a smartphone with you. You have access to so many online resources. हम क्या कर रहे हैं? If feel I have toxic parents, I am joining the group where everyone is bad mouthing parents for the toxic behavior. I'm not joining any healthy activity where I learn to respect my parents more. हम वो कोई भी काम नहीं कर रहे. I'm sitting somewhere and I'm like, my mom, my dad, they are crazy. The whole gang would be like, oh, talk about it. I have a better story than yours. What it does is it emotionally puts us in a more problems, more turbulence.
Ma'am, like, are we allowed to cut off our parents if they like abandonment or neglection or basically not being there at all? So are we allowed to cut them off, like not talk, just be there like?
So your question is again also very relevant. Are we allowed to cut off if the parents have abandoned or have been neglectful? It will depend upon the nature of abandonment and neglect. But you can draw a certain line. For example, we come across cases where the father had been sexually abusing. So in that case, the scholars say that you should not be living in the same house and you should be staying away. But you should not be thinking of your parent as a criminal. You should be looking at your parent as someone who is sick, not sick-minded, like sick. Why would a normal, healthy parent do something like that? If a parent is engaged in a wrong behavior, that means the parent is mentally sick. What kind of empathy we need to have with this parent is that this parent should be going to some professional and taking help. But yes, I have to safeguard myself. Okay, then we come to the next one, that is neglect or abandonment. The level of neglect and abandonment is also important. If it is getting to you and you have no healthy resources, then you can draw a certain line. You can live with some of your relative, or you can develop a certain criterion that till which limit I'm going to be connecting to the parents. But you cannot totally cut off ties with the parent. For that, I would advise you that if anyone has any problem, they should be going to a scholar, a sound scholar. They should be talking to the scholar and they should also allow the parents to talk to the scholars, so that the expert should be listening to both parties and then letting them decide उस relationship की boundary क्या set होगी. देखिए, for even a believer, any regular believer, we can't do that. Neglect क्या है? If you define a neglect is they are not usually emotionally present. So we have already talked about it. If the parents are not emotionally present, you have to accept them. If they are taking care of all your other needs, you just have to tell yourself that that's how they are. So let me become emotionally intelligent, learn about emotional intelligence, let me draw the line with them and see other resources that are available to me.
What if you've been asking your parents that you want to go to a counselor or you want to, and they get mad at you for asking them that because they're like, why do you need a counselor when you have us as your parents, but you're not comfortable to talk to them about certain things. How am I supposed to?
I think that's a very difficult situation for youngsters in today's times. I'll be very honest with you because I do coaching and counseling and I do see a lot of youngsters need it. The parents sometimes come to me with a big question mark saying कि हमने तो कभी नहीं कराई थी. हमें तो ज़रूरत नहीं पड़ी थी. We used to talk to our parents, but they have failed to understand the times have changed. We're living in times of fitnas. So the ideal situation would be you go to your parents, you talk to them, and they let you take some help. Let's say they are not ready for the help, but there are other forums as well. A smart kid, what would they do is, for example, you have Quran halakas. You can start coming to those Quran halakas. You also get help over there. When you study Quran especially, then it does provide you, Quran provides you all the solutions. So you should become particular about Quran halaka, because your parents would definitely say, haan, jao Quran class mein. Then there are sometimes trainings happening, like regular trainings for youngsters, like a session like this. You can always tell your parents, oh, I would be interested in a session like this. They'll be like, haan, jao, seekho. Then you can have mentors in your life. You can look up around in your community the people that your parents would also approve of, and the people from whom you can learn things. You can always like connect to them. You can read books. Like, let's say you say, I think I have an anger issue. Go to a bookshop, go online, buy a book on anger management. Read one article every day from Google on anger management. Listen to YouTube channel, go to Netflix, watch documentaries on such topics. What we do is basically we immediately go into learned helplessness. Since my parents are not letting me go to a therapist, so I will not work on myself. अब मैंने नाश्ता भी नहीं करना, खाना भी नहीं खाना, कमरे में रहना है, स्क्रीन पे रहना है, सोए रहना है, सेल्फ हार्म में जाना है. Now I'll show them. Now this is an attitude where you are revolting. You're not sound yourself. So make yourself sound. There are 101 ways of doing it. Don't be tunnel vision thinking of only one way, that either it's this or that. It's like all or none thinking. Don't adopt that. Many ways of learning. If you're not getting the ideal thing, opt for the whatever best possible thing you can come up with.
Yeah, like what if like they're manipulating and gaslighting and victimizing themselves, playing the victim? So like, what are you supposed to do then?
Okay, when they're gaslighting, manipulative, victimizing themselves, hug them, empathize with them, validate their feelings, learn all these skills. How to validate someone, how to show empathy, how to be emotionally intelligent. Surprise them rather than like, oh my God, mom, you're gaslighting me, so I'm going to my room and I'll be watching the next whole season on the Netflix for my own catharsis. Don't do that. Our problem is we are not well equipped. If I'm so smart, I consider myself so smart, and the awareness have been given to me, so why can't I learn and I can excel in that area? Why can't I create a success over there? I can come up and tell so many girls that if you are not able to do it, I did it. When my mom was gaslighting me, I knew how to behave in the best possible manner and still show respect towards her. My job, being Muslimah, is I cannot push back my parents like that. But I need to understand the challenges that exist in these times and also learn how to be more healthy in that relationship.
Okay, what if the parents, like, they are sometimes emotionally available, like most of the time, but then they have some habits which negatively impact you in that situation?
Another important question, the parents are a lot of time emotionally available, but there are some areas where they are so irritable and they impact you badly. Depends upon what the area is. In those situations where you see a kind of a sporadic behavior, few times they are doing it, sometimes they are not doing it. What you have to do is look at the principle. What would a principle say? What is a standard principle of deen in this area? For example, my parents are very understanding, but when I want to go and meet my friend, they're not understanding. They don't give me allowance for that. They don't want me to buy a new phone. They overprotect me. So then you have to see whether your definition is the same as the definition of deen. Or if you take this question with all the details to a scholar or a learned person, would that person agree with you? So you have to see how principled your parents are. And if your parents are not principled, then you have to understand the background they're coming from. From where are they getting their fears? And then how to bring that confidence in them that they can trust me. Because if you have not proven yourself as a trustworthy kid in the past, obviously they will have fears. If I catch my daughter on phone with a guy 2 or 3 times, and every time she says, I'm so sorry, I won't do it again, and then she wants some permission, what would be my attitude? That's very obvious. Because I have broken the trust. So first of all, I have to establish that trust and I have to be very clear about that trust. Subhanak Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.